Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another podcast episode of Let's Read About the Presidents. Tonight we are doing Rutherford B. Hayes, number 19. He was born on October 4th in 1822 in Delaware, Ohio. He died on January 17th in 1893 in Fremont, Ohio. He was called the Dark Horse President, like Dark Horse Comics. No formal affiliation of religion, but attended Methodist services after his marriage. That's smart. His higher education included Kenyon College, 1842, and Harvard Law School in 1845. He was a lawyer. His military service includes the Civil War, served with the 23rd Ohio Volunteer Infantry Regiment, 8 June of 1861, for 4 years. Began as a major and rose to the rank of Major General. His father was Rutherford Hayes, so he's Rutherford B. Hayes Jr. Maybe whether the B is the same doesn't matter. In my opinion, it doesn't matter. Rutherford B. Hayes Sr. His mother was Sophia Burchard Hayes. His wife was Lucy Webb Hayes. Webb Hayes. Wed in 1842. His children was Burchard or Birch Austin Hayes, James Webb Cook, Rutherford Ruddy Platt, Joseph Thompson, George Crook, who only lived for 2 years. Joseph Thompson lived for 2 years. Rutherford Ruddy Platt lived to 1927. That's pretty cool. Frances Fanny Hayes lived till 1950. Scott Russell Hayes lived till 1923. And Manning Force lived only 6 months to a year. These are all the kids. Political life includes a Cincinnati city solicitor, U.S. representative for 2 years, Ohio governor from 68 to 72, and then Ohio governor again, 1867 to 1870. So he was governor for 6 months to a year. Presidency, one term for Mr. Hayes, March 4th, 1877 to 1881. Inauguration held on March 5th, since the 4th was a Sunday. He was a Republican. Reason for leaving office announced at start of presidency he would not seek a second term. His vice president was William Wheeler. Election of 1876. Electoral vote disputed and went to committee, which determined the results. Mr. Hayes got 185. Mr. Samuel Tilden, 180. Ooh, that's a very small margin, 1 point in between. Just the electoral vote. That's crazy. The popular vote, also very flipping close. Mr. Hayes got 4. Oh, Tilden got more. Got more popular votes than Mr. Hayes. Tilden, start with Tilden, he got more. 4,284,020. Mr. Hayes got 4,036,572. But Mr. Hayes won. He won because the electoral vote, he won by 1 point. Crazy. I don't think it's ever been that close. The cabinet for Mr. Hayes includes Mr. William Efforts, was on from the previous one. Secretary of the Treasury, John Sherman. Secretary of War, George W. McCrary. Alexander Ramsey. Attorney General, Charles Devens. Secretary of the Navy, Richard M. W. Thompson. After Thompson was Nathan Goff for 3 months. Postmaster General David M. Key for 3 years, and then Horace Maynard for 6 months to a year. Secretary of the Interior was Carl Schurz, 1877 to 1881. Excuse me. Although Hayes was not the first war veteran to be president, he was the first veteran to have been wounded in combat. He received 4 wounds while fighting in the Civil War. Civil War. Hayes was the only president whose election was decided by the Congressional Convention, not the Supreme Court, which I find interesting. Supreme Court appointments. John Marshall Harlan. He's pretty famous. And then William B. Woods. Freedmen's Bureau. Created in March 1865 to help refugees and former slaves with procuring clothing, medicine, and other needed items, the Freedmen's Bureau also provided schools for African Americans during the Reconstruction era, reuniting slave families after the Civil War was another of its functions. Oh, that's nice. Let's see. U.S. population in 1877, 50,155,783. National debt of 1881, 2,069,000,000, 13,570. President's salary, for sure, $50,000. Still 38 states in the Union. Civil War amendments. Amendment 13, 1865, ended slavery everywhere in the United States. The Emancipation Proclamation only ended slavery in actual Confederate states, but allowed it to continue elsewhere. Amendment number 14, 1868, granted citizenship to Americans born here. Native Americans were excluded until 1924. Native Americans should have been included in 1868. Thank you very much. Amendment 15 allowed African American males the right to vote. Males only, not females. Ladies should have been able to vote from the very beginning of the nation. If they agree with their husband, that's 1 vote. If they disagree with their husband, that's 2 votes in the house in a household. That should have been allowed. Many southern states ignored this and created barriers to disenfranchise blacks. This was not corrected for nearly 100 years. 100 years with the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Crazy. Mr. Hayes was the first president to be inaugurated in the White House. Really? The others were inaugurated in the White House. New technologies introduced at the White House was typewriters and telephones. The official title of First Lady was first used by Lucy Hayes. Is that his wife? Yes. Mr. Hayes was the first president to travel to the West Coast during his term as president. The White House Easter egg roll. In the early 1870s, the Easter egg roll was held on the grounds of the Capitol, but too many children led to vast destruction of the lawn. So in 1878, they were banned. 2 versions exist of how the White House revived the tradition. 2 versions of the story. One states that the children next ran down the Pennsylvania Avenue to the White House and demanded that the gates open and allow them their Easter egg roll. Another, more likely version, states that President Hayes heard of the youngsters' plight and announced the White House would serve as the setting. Starting that year and continuing for all 16 years except during World War II, and while the White House was undergoing renovation during the Truman years, the tradition has grown and evolved to become the largest outside public gathering of the year at the White House. Great. And I think they postponed it during COVID. I think so. President and Mrs. Hayes began the Easter egg roll for the children on the White House lawn. Mrs. Hayes was the first wife of the president to graduate from college. And those are your three presidents. That's three. Yeah, it's three presidents. So I hope you enjoyed these three videos, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.